When the sky burned, Captain Elena Ramirez stood alone on the comms deck of Station Aegis, a classified deep mountain military base hidden in the Andes. The walls around her hummed with dormant energy, but her eyes were locked on the satellite feed. The Earth was dying. Above every major continent, Zeraki warships drifted like shadows, long, eel-like constructs of living metal, silhouetted against the sun. Without warning, without communication, they had opened fire. Elena watched in stunned silence as New York vanished in a beam of white heat. Beijing cracked and fell into itself. The ground liquefied beneath it. Rio burned in silence as the satellite feed trembled. The entire planet was being systematically erased. A voice, cold and metallic, crackled over every frequency. "We are the Zeraki Dominion. You are a primitive infestation. Submission is required. Resistance will end in extinction." The transmission ended. The screen flickered into static. Behind her, Lieutenant Choi burst in, pale and wide-eyed. "Captain, command is gone. NORAD, NATO, every line's dead. They hit everything. Simultaneously." Ramirez said nothing at first. She reached forward and shut off the main feed. The silence in the room was deafening. "How many cities?" she asked, her voice calm. "More than 40. So far." He hesitated. "Santiago's gone." A flicker of pain crossed her face, but she didn't let it linger. Her home, her family, gone. She straightened, spine like steel. "What do we have?" 2 working gunships. Some drones. Power's holding. We've still got access to underground grid lines. Elena nodded slowly. "Good. Then we're not done." Choi stared at her. "Captain, we don't even know how many of us are left." "We're enough," she said firmly. "They think they've crushed us, but they've only made us remember what we are." She walked to the tactical table, pulling up old Cold War contingency maps. If any bunkers still stood, if any comms still worked, she'd find them. They would link the survivors. She would turn rubble into resolve. "They took our cities," she said, voice low but sharp. "So we'll take everything from them." She turned to her team. What remained of it? Engineers, soldiers, scientists. Shell-shocked but breathing. Eyes red from loss. Hands shaking from fear. Today, we become the fire they thought they'd snuff out. This is Earth, and we are not done. Outside, above the clouds, Zeraki dreadnoughts glided silently over a burning world. But deep underground, in the dark, something ancient and feral stirred. Humanity had been wounded, but not broken. Not yet. United in ruin. They called themselves the United Terran Resistance. But in the beginning, they were only fragments. Burnt-out remnants of armies. Civilian militias. Isolated bunkers with flickering power and half-empty arsenals. The Zeraki believed Earth had been silenced. But in the shadows of fallen cities, humanity whispered. And then they screamed. Captain Elena Ramirez stood before a cracked display screen in a dim concrete bunker beneath the ruins of Quito. The satellite uplink, barely reactivated by jury-rigged fusion cells, pinged faintly, then came to life. Pockets of survivors lit up like tiny sparks across the globe. Melbourne, Alaska, Eastern Siberia, the African plateau. They were still out there. "Broadcast it," she told Choi. Across every working resistance channel, her voice went out, low and unwavering. "To the survivors of Earth, this is Captain Elena Ramirez. The Zeraki took our cities. They think we're finished, but they mistaken silence for surrender. Link up. Fight smart. Strike hard. Make them bleed." The signal carried farther than she'd hoped. Resistance groups responded, some barely clinging to life, others armed and waiting. For the first time since the bombardment, Earth began to organize. In the coming weeks, tactics evolved. Ramirez oversaw the transformation personally, training fighters in guerrilla warfare, salvaging drones, learning the weaknesses of the Zeraki. Their ships were sleek and advanced, but their arrogance was fatal. They didn't adapt. Humans did. Engineers fused Zeraki biotech with scrap metal and war debris, creating unstable but deadly weapons. Hackers cracked their neural net systems, exposing command frequencies. Even their atmospheric shielding could be disrupted by a combination of pulse mines and Earth's own unpredictable weather. It was dirty, improvised war, and it worked. Outside Dakar, a Zeraki patrol was lured into a canyon, only to be buried under a rockslide triggered by sonic resonance charges. In southern Canada, resistance teams hijacked a Zeraki dropship and crashed it into a cruiser, sacrificing themselves to take it down. For every human that died, 5 Zeraki followed. In the ashes of civilization, new leadership emerged. Ramirez was named Field Marshal of the Resistance, her reputation growing with each counterstrike. She didn't seek titles. She only wanted revenge. Then came the breakthrough. In the ruins of a Zeraki command node hidden in Greenland, a team recovered partial navigation data. Coordinates. A world labeled Zizao, the Dominion's homeworld. Proof they weren't untouchable. Ramirez stayed at the data in silence. Choi looked up from the terminal. It's real. Their capital. She didn't blink. Can we reach it? Not yet. But maybe. Ramirez stood, jaw clenched. They made us watch our world burn, she said. Let's show them how that feels. The order went out. Salvage everything. Every ship, every fragment of alien tech, every human willing to fight. Earth wasn't just resisting anymore. We were planning an invasion. The jump to vengeance. The scrapyard that had once been Earth's orbit was now a shipyard. Above the scorched skies of Earth, humanity built something new from the bones of war. Hybrid warships, half human, half Zeraki. The resistance fleet was ugly, unpredictable, and absolutely lethal. No two vessels were alike. Some were stitched from the remains of fallen cruisers. Others were repurposed cargo hulls with alien engines bolted onto their flanks. It was chaos. It was madness. And it was ready. Inside the flagship Vindicator, General Elena Ramirez stood at the forward observation deck, watching the dry docks drift beneath her like wounded beasts being reborn. Around her, human engineers barked in 3 languages while alien reactors hummed with unstable energy. Lieutenant Choi stepped beside her, holding a data slate. We've finished calibration on the jump drive. It's as stable as we can make it. She nodded. And the fleet. 8 to 7 ships ready. Another dozen will limp behind on conventional thrust if the drive fails. Ramirez said nothing for a moment. Her eyes were on the stars. The coordinates to Zizao, ripped from the Dominion's own systems, were locked in. The plan was simple. Jump in fast, strike hard, hit their capital before they could react. No drawn-out siege. No negotiation. Just vengeance. Aboard the Vindicator, the crew strapped in. Across the fleet, resistance soldiers ran final diagnostics. Every fighter, every gunner, every Marine knew this might be a one-way trip. There were no illusions. Ramirez stood at the bridge, voice steady as she keyed into the fleet-wide channel. This is General Ramirez. We watched them take our cities. We buried our dead in the rubble they left behind. Now we take something from them. Not because it's easy, but because we must. Because Earth deserves justice. A beat of silence. Set course. Initiate jump. The fleet lit up with blue fire. Alien drives screamed against human gravity. Space warped, twisted, and then folded. The ships vanished into the black. They emerged above Zizao in chaos. The Dominion homeworld gleamed beneath them. Blue oceans and white clouds wrapped around massive bioluminescent city structures. But the sky above was already moving. Dominion defense platforms locked on. Hundreds of sleek warships raced from orbit to intercept. Engage! Ramirez shouted. The battle erupted instantly. Human warships fired in erratic patterns, confusing the Dominion's rigid algorithms. Hackers aboard repurposed freighters unleashed viral code into the planetary network, blinding defense grids. Suicide frigates rammed enemy cruisers, detonating salvaged antimatter. The Dominion hadn't expected Earth to strike back. Certainly not hey. Not like this. The Vindicator punched through enemy lines and dove toward the capital. Ramirez stood tall on the bridge as alarms screamed around her. Take us in, she ordered. To the surface. To their throne. We take their homeworld. The Vindicator slammed into the upper atmosphere of Zizao, its hull ablaze from orbital descent. Inside, General Elena Ramirez gripped the railing as gravity surged. Around her, Marines prepared to deploy. Faces grim, armored suits humming, weapons primed. Through the viewport, the alien capital came into view. Massive organic towers spiraled from the surface like coral reefs grown to city size. The skyline pulsed with bioluminescence. It might have been beautiful if it hadn't been built by the monsters who burned Earth. Landing zone ahead, Choi called out. Heavy resistance expected. Ramirez tightened her grip. Expected doesn't mean tolerated. The ship leveled out, smashing through a Zeraki skywatch tower before crashing into a wide plaza of the central city. Metal groaned. Fire erupted. The Marines surged out of the breach like a tidal wave. Urban warfare began instantly. Zeraki defense troopers emerged from fleshy gates in the city's walls, lithe, chitin-armored, with plasma rifles grown into their arms. But humans had brought the lessons of Earth with them. Ambushes in tunnels, anti-tank drones repurposed to scale vertical walls, and nanite bombs ripped through squads of Zeraki before they could regroup. In less than an hour, Ramirez and her forward strike team pushed into the capital district. Command spire dead ahead, Choi said, blood on his faceplate. We breach, we end this. Ramirez nodded. No survivors. They moved fast, clearing corridor after corridor in the alien palace. Halls lined with pulsing nerves and twitching walls, alive in some way she didn't care to understand. Finally, they reached the high chamber. Inside, the Zeraki High Council stood in a semicircle, tall, serpentine, their eyes wide with fear. One of them slithered forward, speaking through a translator node. You strike at our sacred world. Unprovoked. Barbaric. Why? Ramirez raised her rifle and shot the translator off its neck. She stepped forward, unflinching. You took New York. You took Mumbai. You took Santiago. Her voice cracked, but her rage didn't falter. We begged. We screamed. You watched us burn. The council hissed, recoiling. You had a choice, she continued. You could have spoken, but you chose silence. You chose genocide. She raised her rifle again. So now we speak in fire. She gave the order. Orbital artillery, keyed to her command, opened up from the captured Dominion dreadnoughts in orbit. Precision strikes rained down on military command zones, energy grids, supply structures. The Zeraki capital buckled. Their world, so proud, so untouchable, began to fall apart. As smoke and flames swallowed the alien skyline, Ramirez stepped out onto a shattered balcony. The Terran flag was unfurled beside her, waving over the ruined city. Choi joined her, coughing. Is it over? Ramirez didn't answer right away. She stared into the orange clouds, toward the stars. Then she said quietly, they took our cities. She looked down at the burning world. So we took theirs.